We finally have a new big Mortal Kombat 2 announcement, and even more updates for Mortal Kombat 2. And trust me when I say this, what we're about to reveal is gonna blow your mind. Warner Bros. And New Line just made a massive move with the release date. Mortal Kombat 3 has been officially greenlit before the second movie even hits theaters, and the behind-the-scenes intel on what's actually happening with this franchise is absolutely insane. If you were already covered with the initial reveals, don't worry, we're going way deeper into the freshest announcements. So here's where things get really interesting. And this is breaking news from just this past week. Mortal Kombat 2 has received yet another release date change. But this time it's actually good news for fans who've been waiting impatiently. The movie, which was previously scheduled for May 15, 2026 after that massive delay from October, has now been moved up an entire week. That's right, Mortal Kombat 2 is now officially hitting theaters on May 8, 2026. Now, you might be thinking a week doesn't sound like much, but here's why this matters more than you realize. Warner Bros. Is strategically positioning this film to capture the early summer blockbuster momentum, and moving it up a week means they're trying to get ahead of some major competition that's dropping later in May. We're talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu film, which arrives on May 22nd, and The Devil Wears Prada 2, which hits on May 1st. So Warner Bros. Looked at that schedule and said, you know what? We need Mortal Kombat 2 to have its own weekend to absolutely dominate, and that's exactly what they're doing with this May 8th date. But that's not even the craziest part of the story. We'll come back to why the studio has so much confidence in moving this date around. But first, you need to understand what just happened at New York Comic Con that has the entire Mortal Kombat fanbase losing their minds right now. At the official Mortal Kombat 2 panel during New York Comic Con in mid-October, screenwriter Jeremy Slater dropped an announcement that nobody saw coming this early. Mortal Kombat 3 has been officially greenlit and is already in active development. Let me repeat that. The third movie in this rebooted franchise has been confirmed before the second movie even releases. Slater himself took the stage alongside cast members including Karl Urban, Adeline Rudolph, Martin Ford, Tati Gabrielle, and director Simon McQuoid. And he told the packed audience that New Line and Warner Bros. Are so thrilled with Mortal Kombat 2, so convinced that there's a massive fanbase waiting for it, that they've already hired him to start writing the next installment. Studios don't greenlight sequels to sequels unless they have extraordinary confidence in what they're sitting on. This isn't just optimism, this is Warner Bros. Putting their money where their mouth is and betting big on this franchise becoming a legitimate cinematic universe. Now here's where it gets even more fascinating, and this is intel that connects directly to why they're making these bold moves. The studio's confidence isn't coming out of nowhere. According to multiple reports from Deadline and other industry insiders, Warner Bros. Has been conducting extensive test screenings for Mortal Kombat 2, and the reactions have been absolutely explosive. Jeremy Slater himself has been in these test screenings, and he's compared the audience reactions to what he personally experienced watching Avengers Endgame. He said fans were literally cheering and jumping out of their seats, that every single joke is landing exactly as intended, and that the energy in those screening rooms has been unlike anything he's witnessed in his career. Slater described it as one of the greatest moments of his life, watching hardcore Mortal Kombat fans react with that level of enthusiasm. And we're not talking about general audiences here. These are test screenings packed with people who grew up playing the games, who know every character, every fatality, every piece of lore. These are the harshest critics you could possibly have, and they're absolutely loving what they're seeing. But wait, there's more crazy news about what's actually in this movie that makes those test screening reactions make perfect sense, and this is information that only came out in the past few weeks. For months, all the marketing has been heavily focused on Karl Urban's debut as Johnny Cage, right? Every poster, every teaser, every piece of promotional material has been putting Johnny front and center. Well, here's the twist that nobody expected. Mortal Kombat 2 is actually just as much about Kitana as it is about Johnny Cage. Director Simon McQuoid and actress Adeline Rudolph revealed in a pre-New York Comic Con interview with Entertainment Weekly that Kitana's storyline is given equal weight and screen time to Johnny Cage's arc. Rudolph explained that when she first read the script, it felt like the intertwining of two worlds. She described their stories as very much interwoven, going in and out of each other throughout the entire movie. McQuoid added that Kitana and Jade were the obvious choices when they decided to bring more female characters from the games into the sequel. Here's a fun detail that adds an extra dynamic to their interactions. Johnny Cage is this washed-up Hollywood action star who's let his martial arts training slide, while Kitana has been training as a warrior her entire life. Rudolph teased that this disparity between their skill levels leads to some genuinely comedic moments, especially when Cage realizes he's way out of his depth fighting against someone as seasoned as Kitana. Now, do you think Warner Bros. Would greenlight Mortal Kombat 3 this early if they didn't have hard data showing this approach is working? But that's not even as crazy as the stuff we'll talk about later, regarding why this movie got delayed in the first place, and what it reveals about Warner Bros.' master plan for their entire 2026 slate. First, let me break down what's actually happening in the plot of Mortal Kombat 2. Because unlike the first film, this sequel is finally delivering what fans have been demanding from day one. The movie actually features the titular tournament. One of the biggest complaints about the 2021 Mortal Kombat reboot was that it spent the entire runtime assembling the team and setting up the mythology. But we never actually got to see the Mortal Kombat tournament itself. The story follows the champions of Earthrealm as they're forced into battle in the tournament while simultaneously trying to resist the rule of Shao Kahn. Martin Ford is playing Shao Kahn, and if you've seen the images that were released, his physical presence is absolutely intimidating. This is a guy who's a professional bodybuilder and actor, and he brings this imposing, menacing energy to Outworld's Emperor. If Earthrealm loses this tournament, Shao Kahn will be able to merge the realms and launch his full invasion of Earth. Here's where things get really interesting about the delay. And this is information that only came out during that New York Comic-Con panel. Director Simon McQuoid addressed why Mortal Kombat 2 got pushed from October 2025 all the way to May 2026. Some fans were worried it was because of problems with the film or that it needed extensive reshoots. But McQuoid explained that it's actually the opposite. The movie is a victim of its own success. Every single time people have seen this movie in test screenings, it's gained momentum. They've created what McQuoid described as a massive summer blockbuster. And he said they should be proud of the fact that Mortal Kombat as a movie franchise is going to kick off the summer season next year. He acknowledged that yes, fans have to wait longer than expected, but the payoff is going to feel massive specifically because of that strategic positioning. So instead of cramming it into a crowded October schedule where it would be competing against the Jeremy Allen White Bruce Springsteen biopic and a Colleen Hoover adaptation, they looked at their 2026 slate and realized they had the perfect window to make Mortal Kombat 2 an event film. And here's something really smart about that May window specifically. Warner Bros. And New Line had massive success with Final Destination Bloodlines in May of 2025. That movie opened to a franchise record $51.6 million and went on to gross $301 million worldwide. When you find a window that works that well, you want to replicate that success with other properties, and that's exactly what they're trying to do with Mortal Kombat 2. They saw that early summer slot can deliver for genre films with built-in fan bases, and they're betting that Mortal Kombat will follow that same trajectory. Does that sound like a studio that's worried about their movie underperforming? Absolutely not. This is confident strategic positioning based on hard data and proven box office patterns. Now let's talk about the expanded cast and why having a roster of 20 characters actually works in this film's favor. Because Jeremy Slater addressed potential concerns about the movie being overstuffed. He acknowledged that having a cast of 20 people means you can't give everyone equal screen time without making a 3 or 4 hour movie. So they made strategic decisions about which stories the audience cares about most, and then they focused intensely on making those moments, the fights, the fatalities, the surprises, the deaths, land with maximum impact and satisfaction. Slater said he thinks they absolutely nailed that balance, and he credited the best stunt team in the business and phenomenal actors for bringing it all to life. He also emphasized that Mortal Kombat 2 is so much funnier and bigger than the first movie, which might surprise people who are primarily expecting gore and brutal combat. If Mortal Kombat 2 delivers on even half of what these test screening reactions and behind-the-scenes reports are promising, we could be looking at one of the biggest sleeper hits of 2026. But all the fundamentals are there for this to break out in a major way. And honestly, that kind of unexpected success story is often more exciting than when a preordained blockbuster performs exactly as expected. There's something thrilling about watching an underestimated film come out of nowhere and completely dominate the conversation. If you're as hyped as we are about everything happening with Mortal Kombat 2 and the confirmation of Mortal Kombat 3, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future updates. We'll be covering every new trailer drop, every casting announcement, and all the latest news as we get closer to that May 8th, 2026 release date. And let us know in the comments what you're most excited to see in Mortal Kombat 2.